Welcome back to the Hats We Wear. Today, I am happy to have Daniel Jackson with me. He's going to talk about the hats he wears, the joys and struggles of those hats, and how he navigates through them. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight,
Thanks
my
for
time,
having me on.
afternoon, your time.
Yeah. Afternoon, evening,
Evening, yeah.
same thing.
So tell me about what hats you're wearing right now.
The hat I'm wearing right now, well, 2 hours ago, I was wearing the hat of a podcast host.
Okay.
I have my own show. It's called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. And I actually started out, I go, welcome to Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. Me, Daniel Jackson. So, and I do that show because my show is a metaphysical, supernatural type show, UFOs, that type of thing. Not so much UFOs, but metaphysical and supernatural. And the reason I bring that show out is because I think people want to know what's going on in this world, want to know what's going on with what is on the other side, and that type of subject. Me being, I am a medium. I'm a spirit medium. That's what I do.
Okay.
People want to know. I think they're tired of the TV shows and tired of the movies telling them a bunch of garbage, and they don't always bring the real information, or nor do they bring all the information.
Mhm.
And with my show, I try to do that. I bring guests on that have more information than you're actually going to hear within mainstream media and that type of thing. So I try to bring it out there and present it to them in a way to understand that it's not as scary as people want it to make it be. Because there's a lot of things in the metaphysical business that are just not real. I mean, I know there's other mediums that put a lot of stuff out there that is just not real because they're just trying to get customers into their place of business. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm more or less like the magician who puts out all the secret stuff about the magic that is fooling people. So I try to make sure that people understand that before they go out and decide to spend a bunch of money on some guy who's going to tell them about their mom and dad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So I've
Other
been
than
doing
those
that
two
for.
hats, what else do you wear? Podcast host or spirit medium?
I'm a spirit medium, so that's my other hat that I wear all the time. That hat doesn't come off me.
Yeah.
I always wear that hat because I'm always connected. I don't have to sit here and go or something like that because I don't have to do a certain regimen of things to get connected. I'm always connected. I always see spirit. I have not can't remember a time when I haven't seen spirit. I've seen them ever since I was 3 years old.
Okay, that
And
was my question. That was going to be my question. How long have you been so in tune with it?
yeah, I didn't understand what was going on when I was seeing it that young, and even throughout my life when I was growing up, the teens and 20s, 30s, 40s, I just wasn't. I never really could put two and two together. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I just, as I was told in my younger years, I was sensitive to it,
Yeah.
and that's a word, but that's not the truth. When anyone hears, "Oh, you're just sensitive to it," that's not the truth. You have this because you're meant to have it, and we are all born with it. But the world, when you come into this world, you wake up in a baby body going, "Well," and your mom and dad's going, "I'm your mom and dad," and you're going, "I don't know who the hell you are, but okay." And then they raise you, and they teach you the ways of the world. And when they do that, they're basically throwing a bucket of bleach over top of you and sanitizing you of all the truth that you just came with. And so because they want you to believe of everything else that's going on around you so the world can have power and control over you. But some of us are just meant to keep it. But as I tell people, some of us are just meant to be teachers. Others are just meant to be students. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no difference. I mean, I'm able to see spirit, but I see them, hear them, feel them, and communicate with them. But I also take out the trash and empty the dishwasher.
Right.
So
You're a human being as well. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, I am. I
Let me
just
ask you,
sure.
so those 4 decades really where you were seeing spirit, but you were not, if I'm understanding correctly, you really didn't start working with spirit until after that point?
Yeah, not until I didn't find out I was a medium until right before I was turning 50.
Oh, wow. Okay. But you knew that you were seeing. Did you realize you were seeing spirit, or did you think that they were real
Oh,
people?
no, it was no joke. No, I like, one time I was with a girlfriend when I was in my 20s.
Uh-huh.
We were watching TV, and, she was at the foot of the bed, I was at the other end, we were watching Rocky Horror Picture Show, and something actually came out of my closet. It was about maybe 4 feet long and 2 feet thick, kinda whitish, it looked like it just snaked its way out of my closet and went across the room, and then it just disappeared. My girlfriend turned around and said, "Did you see that?" So other people had witnessed it around me, but, yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I saw that." And there was one time when, I was playing in a rock band. I had long hair, I wore zebra striped spandex. I thought I was cool, but not so much.
Mhm.
But, uh but, I came home from the gig, and when I laid down in bed, something laid down next to me, and it did it like 4 or 5 times, and the 5th time when I went to roll over to see what was there, because I could feel the pillow depressed down, the whole bed just sunk down, and
Mhm.
when I rolled over, whatever was there picked up the blanket that I had on top of me and brought it up to the ceiling, and then it shook it above me, and then it dropped it on top of me. And then for 2 years after that, I slept on the couch downstairs because
Yeah,
that was kinda frightening.
that is frightening. And
Yeah, but
so what brought you to then wanting to understand it?
I started seeing a whole heck of a lot more about 6 months before I was turning 50, more
Okay.
than usual. I would see one once in a while, but it was right before I was turning 50 that, that my wife went away on vacation for 2 weeks to see her daughter out in California, and for those 2 weeks, I saw everything you can imagine in a scary movie happening in my house. It wasn't pretty. I don't wish it on anybody, but it was. I saw green and red mist pouring out of the walls and skulls coming out of the walls, floating around with red eyes and fangs. I saw 7-foot skeletons walking around the house. As I would lay in bed and I saw this out of the corner of the room, I saw this cloud come out of the room, out of that corner. One time it was red. This was all at nighttime. One red, then green, and then the next night, then blue, the next night, then yellow, the next night, and then the next night after that was black. It was blue with black stripes, green with black stripes, red with black stripes. It was. I saw a I saw a cloud form above my bed, and then when it came above me, and like a window opened up of blackness, and I saw these two skeleton arms come out, and it pulled the body out, and then the head came out, and the head had bigger eyes than normal, and it was like scanning the room. And but the strange part about that, even though that was strange enough, is
That
when it,
sounds pretty strange.
yeah, when the arms came out, it didn't have any hands, so it was kind of weird.
Wow.
But that the I saw that there's this famed, guy called the Hat Man appeared in my basement. I went downstairs into the basement to get my cat, and he was sitting on the couch, and I said, "Come on, buddy," and he looked at me, he looked to his right, and I looked to my left. I was like, "What are you looking at?" And when I did, I saw this wall of blackness appear, and then I saw this man walk out, and I couldn't see his face, he just walked out, but I saw a side view, I could see his chin and his nose, saw this big black hat and this big long black coat. Again, another weird part was when he was walking across the floor, he didn't have any feet, and he walked in a perfect stride. He went right to the corner of the room, and that was it, and was gone. Then I turned back, and the wall of darkness about to nothing, and looked at my cat, and he looked at me like, "What the hell was that?" And
Yeah.
I
Were you
picked him
having
up,
these
and
experiences anywhere else other than your house?
I have them everywhere I go.
So it wasn't like it was specific to the house, you'd have them wherever you were going?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
would drive past I would be riding down the road and get a real bad chill up my spine, and I'd turn around and start looking. I'm driving past a graveyard.
So,
Yeah,
were you
everywhere.
terrified? Like, did you get a sense that they
How would you
wanted to do
feel?
you harm? Or
How would you feel?
I would feel terrified, but I
Right,
can't imagine being in that house anymore.
right,
Um, so what did you
right.
do?
So, um,
How did you handle it?
we had we sought out all kinds of help. I did the thing what everyone else would do. I looked on the internet and started looking around. Um, we poured salt around the room. You know what that actually ends up doing? It makes your room salty. It doesn't do anything. No,
Okay.
there's a lot of falseness in this. We put crosses up all over the place. A cross doesn't do anything. Yeah, a cross is actually a form of punishment. So how are you gonna make something evil go away with a form of punishment? You're not.
Yeah.
So,
So how'd you handle
but
it, Daniel? What did you do?
I we ended up getting a first we got a paranormal group to come to the house.
Okay.
Um, but, you know, the hard part about that was they showed up in their little van and they had an insignia on the side of it, and I just thought to myself, "I don't wanna be this kinda famous. I don't
Mm.
want people to think that maybe there is a poltergeist type house going on next to their home and stuff like that."
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately for them, there was. So, but, you know, what are you gonna do? But they did all kinds of tests in my house. There was a guy who came in who was the leader, a girl who was taking pictures, a guy who was taking video, and another guy was just kinda asking questions. And they came in, and the one girl was taking pictures, and when she did, she was taking pictures of me walking around with each member of the team, or just me by myself, or just one of the other guys in the room. Well, every time they took a picture of somebody else, there was nothing there. Every time they took a picture of me, either by myself or with someone else, there was always 15 or 20 light orbs completely surrounding me. They had these little boxes with lights on it, little wires sticking off of it. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, they make static electricity." So he rubbed his hand on my couch and then he waved his hand above it. And when he did, it lit up and made this noise. And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So he put them around the house and he put them around doorways. And they said, "Can we go in the bedroom?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "Well," he says, "But it's just a bedroom or what about the house?" I said, "No, it's throughout the house, but we can go in the bedroom." He says, "Okay." So I walk through the door. As soon as I do, every one of those boxes just lit up. They come through, you know what happened? Nothing.
Nothing, because they were attached to you.
Right, so we go in they wanted to go in the closet because the guy said, "I feel something strong in there." I said, "Sure, let's go in," because it's a big walk-in closet.
Mhm.
I go in, he comes in, 10 seconds later, he's getting sick. He's like, "I gotta get out, I gotta get out." I was like, "Alright." He runs over and sits on the bed. I said, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "Wanna go back in?" "Sure." I go in, he goes in, "I'm getting sick again." He feels like he's gonna throw up. He runs back out. I said, "Just sit on the bed." I said, "You okay? You okay?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "How come you're not getting sick?" I said, "I don't know. You're the professional. You're supposed to be telling me." So they uh they go out the house throughout the house. There was one time they wanted me to go in the bedroom and lay down in bed and pretend I was sleeping because they wanted to bring this thing called a spirit box in there.
Mhm.
So
I've
I
heard of them
lay
before.
down. I'm laying there. They come in a couple minutes and then they turn it on. As soon as they turn it on, it starts spitting out words. It says Wendy, Michael, Paul, Helen, unique, special, energy. One time it said the word road, like a street said road. When it did that, a car went past my house. And I was like, the heck's going on here? So then they just started asking questions. They
Mhm.
asked questions for 10 minutes long. And for every question they asked, it just answered.
Mm.
And one of those questions it asked, I remember the most, it said, "Are you here to harm Daniel?" And then it spoke in that computer voice. It said, "No, we are not here to harm Daniel. We love Daniel. We love Daniel's light. Daniel is the light." And I was like, landlord, what is that supposed to mean that Daniel is the light?
You were pulling them in.
I'm freaking out. But
You were like a beacon for them.
yes, and so they leave the room after they're done. I go out and my wife is standing there and they're talking in a huddle. And I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "I don't know. They seem pretty concerned about something." And the guy turns around. I said, "That was great, right? You caught that." Because my wife, after she came home from vacation, she told me about her adventures, and I told her about mine, and it kinda freaked her out. I mean, I mean, I'd always seen things and told her stories about it, but, this was a lot more.
Yeah.
And wasn't she was a little freaked out, but 3 days after she had been back, she started seeing some of the same things. So we were just
Okay.
trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
But we were glad to have this team there because they were experiencing so much stuff that we knew we weren't crazy. It was someone
Mm.
else who was going through it with us. So I said to him, "Hey, that was you got a lot." He's like, "Well, yes, Mr. Jackson, but there's an issue." And I was like, "What kind of issue?" It didn't say anything bad. It was actually kind of really good, and called me unique and special. And what about that? And he said, "Well, whenever we turn on that box, we can get it to say a few words." I said, "Okay." He goes, "It never says sentences." And it said sentences for 10 minutes. It had a conversation. It was an intelligent conversation. Literally, I mean, I've seen the ghost shows where they ask a question and it says a word or something like that. No, they asked a question and it immediately answered them. It didn't
Wow.
wait or anything. It just answered them. So finally, when they got all the information, they said, "Look, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll do a big reveal. We got to figure all this out for you." I was like, "Okay, no problem." So they leave and they gave me some prayers to say, and they gave me a bottle of water, the spray bottle. I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Oh, it's holy water." You know what it is? Water, because that's all it is.
But
And
here's the thing, I want to interject for 1 second
yeah,
because since you got the message that they were not there to hurt you,
right.
did you have a better sense of not being afraid at that point?
No,
No, okay.
no, because other things happened.
Okay.
Other things. My wife got attacked one time. So.
Oh, oh
Yeah,
God.
she was out in the garden, and this was during the time that we were waiting for them to get back with us. She
Yeah.
was out in the garden, and she had a knife in one hand and a gardening tool. She was cutting weeds out. And I got on my motorcycle, and I said, "I'll be back when we return a movie." I was gone for 10 minutes. And when I came back, my neighbor was, I got there and he'd come running at me. He said, "Hey, hey, hey, is there something wrong with your wife?" And I went over there and she's laying down on the ground. She'd passed out, laying on the ground on her stomach. And I'm trying to wake her up and I can't get her to wake up. He says, "You want me to call an ambulance?" And I said, "Sure." So the ambulance shows up and they're like, "Mr. Jackson, Mr." And then they can't get her up. We go to roll her over. He said, "Because I need your help to get her on the gurney." I said, "No problem." And we go to roll her over and we did. The knife she had was stuck in her stomach. And so he said, "Step away from the crime scene." I said, "Crime scene? It's a gardening accident." And he's going, "No, it's a crime scene," and all this. So
Oh my gosh.
eventually they get her to the hospital and they sewed her up and did everything. So, but they were questioning the shit out of me. But I was like, "I wasn't even here, buddy. My neighbor will tell you I wasn't here." And
Yeah.
but when I had some time alone with her, she told me she was attacked. She said she turned around and she saw a dark energy standing in front of her, and it grabbed her and pushed her and tried to shove the knife into her. And then she moved her arm and then it spun her around and tried to throw her to the ground, forcing the knife in her. But
Wow.
luckily, we were. This is a point where we were finding out some other things from because I sought out mediums too, and the mediums told me that I had some special spirit guides around me. And I knew the name of one of them or two of them. And she said, "One of your spirit guides, Helen, grabbed me and pulled me the other way." And she said, "That's why the knife only went in a little bit." So she said that she was completely aware of the whole incident until she fell out on a knife and it knocked her out. But yeah,
That's
so that's what was
terrifying.
going. Yeah, it's very terrifying because there was things we knew about this dark energy. We could feel it within the house, and
Mhm.
but the dark energy really wasn't after her. It was just after me. But it went after her because he knew that would make me pretty upset, so, yeah, but no dark energy anymore, because I found out what was actually taking place. So, the, uh, the team, after they left, they were supposed to come back 2 weeks, and I hadn't heard from them for 6 weeks, and I finally got a hold of them, and they said, he said they weren't coming back. He said they actually quit on my front lawn because they got so much information from me that, from the house, they said it usually takes 10 or 15 houses, not one, to get all that information. There was a lot of stuff that they were catching. So,
Mhm.
so what I did is I just got a hold of some mediums. I found 5 of them, and, all 5 of them told me the same story about me. And then I ended up talking to one specifically, and, she told me to come to her show because she wanted me to see how she did it. And I didn't understand that at first, but I know now. But so I did. I went to the show, And when I showed up there, my wife and I didn't tell this woman I was coming, and we walked through the door, and as soon as we walked through the door, she was down across the other side of the room. She locked eyes on me and watched me walk through the room, and I sat down. My wife was like, "That was creepy." I said, "Yeah, no kidding." I don't know what that's about." She was like, "Did you tell her you're coming?" I said, "No, didn't tell her anything." So, so, excuse me. So, the ladies proceeded to do her show, and then she read 8 people. I was the second one she read. She said there was a man there who was his name was Robert, goes by Bob, and he wore flannel shirts, but wore a business suit to work, and, uh, and she said, "Does that resonate with anybody?" I said, "Yeah, that's." And, oh, she also said he died by, he died from blunt force trauma, and I said, "Yeah, that's my dad." I said he fell up a set of stairs and it moved his brainstem, but his name was Robert and he went by Bob, and he wore flannel shirts and a business suit. And she said, now he's showing me prison bars, a school bus, and someone wearing scrubs and a stethoscope. And I said, yeah, that's me. I just went back to school for medical records and now I work in a prison. So, how could you get that? So at the end of the show, I went down there to introduce myself. And she's like, "Oh, you're the guy I talked to on the phone 2 weeks ago." I said, "Yeah, yeah." She said, "You're Daniel." I said, "Yeah." She said, then she looked at me like a teacher and she said, "I want you to stay and wait till everybody leaves." I was like, "Oh my god, I'm in trouble here, you know? I mean, 40 something years old." I'm like,
What did I
What
do?
the
What did I
heck?"
do?
Yeah, what did I do? So we waited and she said, "You know, I saw you come into the room." I said, "Yeah, my wife and I thought that was kind of creepy, you know?" She said, "Well, there's a reason for that." And I said, "Why? What's the reason?" She said, "Well, when spirit sees you, they see your body frame and they see a light inside of you." I said, "Okay." She said, "That's your soul." I said, "All right." She said, "Some of us have a soul that's brighter than others, and spirits see that, so they know when they have a brighter soul, that's someone they can communicate with." She said, "Because I know you see spirit, right?" And I said, "Lady, it's like being in a room with 1,000 people, except nobody leaves and more just keep coming. That's how many I
No
see."
idea, right?
Yeah, and I still do every day. So I don't ever not see spirit. And she said, "Yeah, but with you, I don't see that. I see you like they see you." I said, Like what?" And she said, "All I see is light. You look like a form. I don't even see the human form, but I just see a form of light." And that's what she said. She said, "You're a beacon of light."
Mm,
She said, "And they just come to you." She said, "You have an ability to see them, but you see so many because they're coming to you." She said, I said, "How many?" She said, "All of them. This whole room is filled up." And I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "How?" She said, "Well, they're not standing around me, and usually they do. They're all standing around you."
wow.
And I was like, "What's that supposed to mean?" She said, "Well, they want your help." I said, "They're spirit, they're dead, right? How can I help them?" She said, "I think they want you to cross them over." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because they believe that you're light into heaven." She said, "You're that bright."
Wow, that's
And she
amazing.
said, "I've never seen anyone so bright in my entire life." And I said, "Okay. What do I do with that?" And she said, "Well, you got to decide if you want to do that or not." She said, "You're an untrained medium. You have this, and a really strong one too, but you just don't know how to do it." I said,
Yeah.
"I'm just a regular guy who just sees ghosts all day long." She said, "No, you're more than that." She said, "But you need to have a talk." I said, "Well, talk? I mean, like how?" She said, "You need to have a talk with God or source, whatever you want to call him." I said, "So what do you mean?" She said, "You need to have a sit down. You need to sit down in a room with him and just talk to him and decide if you're going to use this and do something with it like I did or just push it away." She said, "But I know you don't want to push it away." I said, "Been part of my entire life as far as I can remember." She said, "Well, then I guess you have a big decision to make." So that's what I did. I eventually, my wife and I went home and then we talked about it. And she kind of puts things into perspective for me because I said to her, "How do I have a talk with God about this?" And she said, "How do you have a talk with God any other time? You
Mm,
just do."
yeah, just be
So,
quiet.
you don't have to go to some big white building and talk to a bunch of people
No.
telling you how to talk to God. So that's what I did. And I had a talk with him. And then once I had a talk with him, I told him, I said, "I'll do whatever you want me to do. If this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. but I'm gonna need help because I don't know how to figure this out."
Mhm.
And then the very next day, everything changed, and a lot of that scary stuff started going away. It took a couple of months, but and then I started I met with a woman who was putting a group of people together, and they all helped me to develop this, so here comes the help. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
but then I also found out these 2 archangels I have with me. I mean, it took me a while to figure out that not everybody has archangels with me. You just don't, because regular people, you don't need an angel to go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, but
You
you
need
do when you're a
angels.
beacon of light for souls.
Yeah,
You
you need
do.
an angel with you to guide you through this, to help you
Yeah.
through this, and
Yeah.
that's why I have them. So, and
Yeah.
how many archangels do I have with me? All of them.
Oh,
And
that's
all of them
amazing.
isn't 12 or 14. There's thousands of them. We give them names and stuff like that, but that's not their real names. We can't pronounce their names. We can't even pronounce our own real soul name because we have a voice box, because the way they communicate is what we call telepathy. It's soul to soul. It's nothing to do with your brain. Your brain doesn't
Yeah.
do anything except make the little parts work. That's it. Everything else that tells you about your memories and all that stuff, that's in your soul. Yeah.
So
So,
let me ask you, did you, I have so many questions. Oh my gosh. Did you have
yeah,
anybody in your family that
I got as much time as you want to spend. So
it's just crazy. Did you have anybody in your family that 2 questions.
I
Did you
had
have
it
anyone in your
also. Yeah.
family who had realized that they had a gift like this and did
My
something
sister has
with
a
it?
little bit, but my sister's a very, self-centered, negative person, and she just you have to be you have to, in order to keep this and have this, you have to be very clear to get clear messages. I
Yeah,
don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't even do CBD or anything like that because
yeah.
I have to be clear in order to
Crystal
get clear
clear.
messages,
Mhm.
and I get spirit talks to me all the time on my, I don't have my phone with me, but on my phone, at nighttime when I'm about to go to bed, when I'm clearing out of everything, they start talking to me. Sometimes they're talking to me or they are talking around me, but I
Okay.
hear the conversations going on. And sometimes I will go, okay, I'll put it on a little message. They just said this or they just said that, because people want to know what they have to say, but they'll
Yeah,
be surprised of what they actually have to say because it ain't what you think it is. They're not talking about these heavenly things. They're just talking about what we talk about.
yeah. Now
Yeah.
did you, tell anybody when you were growing up and in your 20s and 30s, did anybody else know that you were
Yeah, well,
seeing?
in the town we lived in, New Jersey, it was right next to the Delaware River, South Jersey,
Mhm.
and, there was a battlefield in there with a Hessian spot, and there was a little hospital there, so everybody kinda knew about the lore of the area,
Okay.
but and some of the other homes were having these issues as well, like, my we were when we were kids, my sister was getting ready for school one morning, and my mom was helping her in the bathroom, and they went up to the door, they had a mirror in the bathroom, a full-length mirror, and when they walked up in front of it, there was another woman standing in it with a little colonial outfit on.
Wow.
Or there was a time when my brothers and I were downstairs watching TV, and my sister's room was 2 flights up, and her record player turned on. So a record player, you had to lift the record up, put it on, and flip the
Yeah,
switch and drop down.
yeah.
It was switching records.
Okay. So
So it
you
was
weren't the
playing
only one in
record.
your family that saw this, so you didn't think that
Oh,
you were
no, they
yours
all saw it. We all
you
experienced it, but it
okay,
wasn't until I was about 17 when my parents and I, moved down to Delaware, and then no one else was really seeing too much of it.
okay,
They were experiencing things around them, but I
okay.
was the only one who was actually seeing them.
Got it. Okay.
Like, I
I'm
see
just
spirit like
wondering what the
I see them like I
distinguish
see you.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's
I don't ever
amazing.
not see them. But
Yeah.
when I see them, I see, like, probably, I don't know, 60 or 7, maybe 100 of them a day. That's in the
How do you tell the
daytime.
difference between a soul and someone who's alive?
The ones who are, well, there's 2 different places as well. There's no such place as hell. There's no one walking there might be somebody walking around with horns and a tail, but he's not torturing anybody. It's just that's what he looks like where he comes from. But, and as most spirit are, some of them look like monsters. They're not monsters, it's just that's what they look like where they come from because 'cause we're not the only place that has people on it.
Right.
I see everything. I don't just see people. I see dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish, everything. Other beings from other worlds, other dimensions, like in a remote view. It's just my ability is always constantly changing. So the remote view just
Okay.
it's like having cable. You order some channels and something extra comes in. But these the regular spirit who have crossed over, the ones who crossed over in their light, they look like you and I do, except they're just a little bit transparent. Well, the other
Okay.
ones that I see, they are actually the color blue, because where
Okay.
they
Got it.
are, the lower energy place, there's energy there, but they are not. There's not enough energy to keep them as solid as other
Mhm.
ones look. So they're blue because the color of the energy is actually blue. And there's these streams like rivers of energy that flow there, and they have to walk up into it and kind of like cock their head back, and they go into a dream state and they have to collect it, and then they come out of it and they're like, oh, because if they don't, then it's like walking around when you're nauseated. So they have to collect energy all the time in this lower energy place, and they
Mhm.
get used to it after a while. The other spirits show them what to do.
Okay.
Or you walk into the light and, you go home because this isn't home.
Right.
You go
Right.
home to heaven.
Yeah, this is a school.
Yeah,
So
this
you're
is a school.
yeah. So you're
You
I
know what I'm talking about.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the most difficult schools as well.
Oh, wait a minute.
Challenging.
What?
It's incredibly Earth is
Um,
an incredibly challenging school. Learn
uh,
a lot.
oh, 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 you know what I'm talking about because you have a little bit of an ability, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah,
you
I
think I
do.
would know that?
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Because I know who
that's why
my
it's
people are.
fascinating talking to
Because
you.
because they
And
they just told me that.
yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's fascinating talking to you because do you think what you were seeing in the house was just beings from a different place? Because you said they just looked different. Or do you think that they were actually trying to stop you from crossing other souls over?
So, so I had an, so I see spirit like last night when I was laying in bed. I just concentrated in, and then I saw thousands of people, thousands just walking around. And they're just there's no buildings or trees or anything, but I see land and I just see people walking around. They got all kinds of different looking clothes on because they are pure energy. They can manipulate themselves to look like whatever they want to. So, but a lot of
Yeah.
them wear clothes, and a lot of them looks like 1930s and 40s type clothes and stuff. So I see them all walking around. There was a time when I crossed them over, and so what I do is again they it's like they walk around, and they do this. They're looking at me because they see the light, they know what it is, okay, and but I don't always say something. So sometimes I'll stand there and I'll watch that, and when I see it, it's like I'm standing on a balcony and I'm looking down at them. They're
Okay.
always looking up at me, and they're all looking around, and I go, "Hello, is there anyone here that wants to cross over?" And then to watch 10,000 people do this is amazing. And then I go, yes, there's a voice coming from this light. My name is Daniel. I'm here to cross you over. Does anyone want to cross over? And then they start coming up because they're tired of being where they are. They've been there long enough. And
Yeah.
I said, all right, it's time to go in. And then the first time that this happened, I said to them, okay, it is now time to walk up to the light, move into the light, and pass through the light, and you shall be received into heaven as one of God's children, because God wants all of his children to come home. It's time to come home. And then after I said it, I was like, where the hell did that come from? It just happened.
Fascinating.
And then they start walking up and they start walking up. And when they do, I say, now, once you're here, tell the people behind you it's time for them to come home as well. I said, this is an open invitation. No one gets left behind. And then they start walking through. Now, for me, it's physical as well because people see it around me all the time. Flash it when people cross over because they're crossing over through me.
I was going to ask you that. So they're actually going through kind of through your energy to cross over.
Correct. I'm going to
Okay.
explain something real quick after I do this. So they're crossing through me, and there's light flashing and stuff around me all the time. I was sitting with my sister one time, sitting there talking to her about this stuff, and then a big flash of light went off in her room, and she was like, "What was that?" I was like, "Oh, that's just somebody jumping in." She's like, "Oh, you mean crossing over?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "How do you get used to that?" I said, "You remember when we were kids and mom and dad fed us green beans, and then 30 years later you love green beans? You get used to it."
You get used
And
to
she's
it.
like, "But why does that happen?" I said, "Well, because of this light thing, because of the crossing over." And she said, "Oh, okay." And I'll explain that to you in a minute. So I cross. They're coming and they're flashing, and then all of a sudden it just kind of dies down, And I said, okay, is there anybody else that wants to go over? And then I hear this other voice in the background says, you've crossed over enough. And I was like, no, no, I haven't. I said, God wants me to cross over as many as times as many as I can. He said, I don't want to talk about him. And I was like, well, maybe you don't want to talk about him, but I work for him. He's our father. He's not my father. And then I said, all right, everybody start coming up here and just tell everybody else. And they start coming up again. And then he's yelling, no, no. And then after that, he starts yelling like this, no, no. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So, whatever. I'm not scared of them because I'm protected by
Yeah.
archangels. Now,
Yeah.
uh, this is going to sound strange, but it just is.
That's funny. With this whole conversation, this is gonna sound strange.
Well, this is the strangest thing you're going to ever hear in your
Oh, I
entire
can't
life
wait. Okay, go
because
ahead.
because I have something that no other medium has because it doesn't need to be in more than one. Just as Jesus was here because it only needed to be one. Okay? So when you die and you pass away, you're going to wake up out of your body, you're going to stand down, look at your body and go, "Oh, I guess I don't need that anymore." You take a step to the left, you look to the right, and there's a light that's going to turn on for you. That's your personal light. Everyone gets one. And you either walk in and it turns off, or you don't walk in and it turns off. And if you take a second guess, it could turn off because you took a second guess about going home to heaven. Why would you? But people do. And why do a lot of them stay here? Because, there's a possibility that you might have to come back and maybe you don't want to. So you stay here. So, but there's always one other light that shines all the time. The light, the light into heaven, like that woman was trying to tell me about. This light it shines all the time so all spirit can see it. They know where to go and they keep coming towards me all the time. So they know where to go. And then with like regular people standing around, walking around, talking, spirit can tune that out because there's 7.5 billion of us. They can hear it because there's no time and space for them. So it's all in
Yeah.
one place and they can tune that out because it gets to be like static after a while.
Mhm.
But with this particular light, they can't tune it out because they have to be able to see it and hear it because this light it's a soul. See, when you die, you leave and you go back home, and then
Yeah.
if you die over the age of 30 years old, you'll come back 80 years later. If you die under the age of 30 years old, you come back 8 years later. And the reason for that is so that you're not recognized. It's pretty simple. God is
Mhm.
very simple. He makes things very simple. But, you would go home, and then if you have to come back again, you just coming back into another body. Well, this soul does not do that. When the body expires, it leaves that body and then goes into the next one that's being automatically born for that. So it shines all the time. It has been here since the beginning of time. So you yourself, let me ask real quick. So you're on life number 28. You've had 28 other 27 other lifetimes, meaning you've had 27 other sets of moms and dads, brothers and sisters, dogs and cats. Oh, and then 27 other astrological signs. I mean, absolutely horse crap because your body's born, your soul was not. So, and it's not born under stars. That's a bunch of crap because the original calendar was 5 months and then 9 months and then 10 months and then 12 months. So they had 5 signs and then 9 signs and then 10 signs and then 12 signs. Means they stood around a bunch of people going, hey, let's play connect the dots. It makes a fish. Yeah, that's all astrology is. Okay. So, and you were not born under stars. So, but this light shines all the time so that all souls can see it and feel it. And then they can also hear it as well. It's me. I'm the
Huh.
light into heaven. My
That's
soul
great.
just keeps coming back over and over and over again.
Fascinating. So
But this
when
is the
you're
last time.
this is the last time?
Yes, because this place is coming to an end. My book doesn't say the end. It says 2332 because that's the end.
So when your body dies, your soul's gonna stay here and just go into another body, correct?
Not this time. This is the last time,
Oh, hmm,
unfortunately. Yeah.
that's fascinating.
So all those souls, everything that comes into this world as being born comes through my energy, comes through one place, comes through this portal for all spirit. I'm the portal. So anything that comes into this world being born comes through my energy. Anyone that leaves and goes home comes through my energy. Anyone that comes here to visit comes through my energy. Always.
Fascinating.
So I
That's
like
cool.
even when I sit here and just if I just stare into nothingness, I see these clouds that go past my face and stuff. It's just people crossing through, other everything crossing over. But sometimes I'm around people or just by myself and flashes of light go off around me.
Now, let me ask
People
you,
look at me like, "What the hell is that?"
exactly.
Can't you
Since
can't
since
explain
we're
it to
talking
everybody.
about the hats that you wear, and this is obviously not even a hat, it's just who you are. Does that interfere with um
Life,
yeah, life and the other hats that you do have to wear as a husband or as
correct.
whatever job you did before? Like, how did that interfere? Did it interfere at all with any job that you ever had or
Yeah,
no?
because people wanna know what the hell's going on when they're around me.
So how did you manage that?
I
Because
didn't.
it was before you actually stepped into your
Yeah,
power, really.
I didn't know what was going on.
You didn't, okay.
I knew I saw spirit all the time, and I would tell people how I saw spirit, and some I like, was with one of my friends when I was a kid, he heard about the stories, and he come over to my house, and he wanted to witness it, and nothing was really happening, and we were in the kitchen eating some sandwiches, and then the radio just turned on,
Mm,
and then it got real loud, and he ran out of my house like a, white as a ghost, and
sure he
but
did.
every time I went to school, he was telling everybody about the story, but I was laughing my butt off because I saw him turn white as a ghost, so,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you again, it's about, like, anything in this world. You either learn to accept who you are or you don't. You
mm,
have to learn to accept your life as it is, and we are all different in this world, and it's all about accepting you for being you within your own skin, and not everybody can do that.
yeah,
And
I think it's
the world doesn't want you to have any trust with it or faith within yourself to do that either. They wanna lie to you and tell you that you need to rely on them for everything when you actually don't.
you know what I find fascinating though, Daniel, is that, you really stepped into your role, later
Who
in
else is gonna
life.
do it?
Like, even though you had of course, you always had it with you, but consciously stepping into it later in life, I'm wondering, like, were you given huge nudges earlier on
It
that you
was.
needed to and you were just ignoring, like, "No, I'm
Yeah.
not ready?"
I didn't know what it
Okay,
was.
okay.
It wasn't explained to me.
So you weren't meant to until you did, bottom line,
Correct.
what's meant to be is gonna be. You weren't meant to
Correct.
step into it until you could really handle it.
Right, correct, because
Yeah,
things are changing in this world, and it was time.
yeah,
Apparently, when what Spirit has told me, what these archangels have told me that, I have done this every single time in my life, but I'm woken up at different times to
okay.
to this one's a bigger one. This one
Yeah,
is it's time for me to that's why I do the podcast show and get out on podcasts because I'm trying to spread a message out to the world of why we are actually here and what our purpose
yeah,
is. Our purpose isn't becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. You'll fulfill your purpose by doing one thing, by being a human. But our
yeah,
purpose is we're here to help each other just for the sake of helping, not because you can, but because you should. In a way where
exactly.
some you're going to be out in the world and someone's going to come up to you and say, "Excuse me, Beth. Excuse me, Miss. I don't know where I'm at. Can you show me how to get someplace?" Or they can't figure something out. And what your purpose is you helping someone else to figure out something they just cannot do for themselves, or you're teaching them to do it for themselves. That's what help is. That's what it's not just giving somebody $20 and walking away. That doesn't really help anybody. We have to physically do this in this world. And we're all here to do this together. We're not here to be pointing missiles at each other and going to war with each other over a piece of
Yeah.
land. We're
Do
not
you
here to
feel
do
like
that.
there's a shift going on energetically in the world right
Absolutely.
now?
Yeah, more people are waking up. More people are
Yeah.
starting to understand that
More
this
people
is
are stepping into their power, I think.
yes, because they need to.
Yeah.
Because as I always tell everyone, we all live on this planet. No one's going anywhere anytime soon. So we better start to get along with each other before we annihilate each other. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do that
Yeah.
anymore.
I was
The
talking with
real
speaking with someone recently, and they were talking about how the consciousness is rising and the energy,
it is.
vibration is heightening,
Yeah,
um,
but
and
the
that's
consciousness just needs to come together. We need to come to the
yeah,
same line of thinking, which is the real reason why Jesus Christ was here is because he did not die for your sins Jesus died because of he was being a free thinker. He was a representation of God, letting us all know because we are all representations of God, because we're
Yeah.
all his children. We are
Yeah.
all related to Jesus. He's not
All from
divine.
source.
We
Mhm.
are all divine because we are all created from God, from a part of him, which makes our soul a divine soul. So everyone's a divine soul. But he was here to show us, to teach us that we could all live together as free men and women and help each other and take care of each other. I could be a doctor and you could be a farmer and you could give me food and I could heal your wounds. And that would be the end of it. And we would be helping each other that way. And
Mhm.
we could because we could share everything in the world. There's enough of everything in the world to share. We could go to work every day and still work,
There's
just
enough for everybody. Abundance is for
right,
everyone.
right, to provide for everyone.
Yeah.
But the people who saw that, the kings and queens and religion, because religion doesn't want, they don't want the second coming of Christ coming back because they know Christ would take all their power away. So they saw that happening and they said, we can't have this guy on the streets because he's taking our power away, our control, our money away in taxes. So
Yeah.
they put him on the cross. He wasn't the first one to be ordered or the last one. And they put him on the cross and they tortured him and murdered him from everybody to make an example out of him, to let people know, if you do this too, if you follow what he's saying, we're going to do this to you as well. So I tell
Mhm.
people all the time, why would you want to wear a cross around your neck? Because you're wearing a form of punishment. It's not to remind you of what Jesus did for you. It's to remind you of what they can do to you.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a perfect place perfect place to end. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining me. I learned a lot from you. It was
Yeah. Well,
fascinating to hear your story.
thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to all the listener, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on The Hats We Wear.